Um, babe, wait, what's happening? Oh, it's live. Sorry, guys, if you're on here and you're watching some of the behind the scenes.
Send me the link one more time. Oh, never mind, I got
Using a new software, and my husband, who is amazing, is testing it out. Okay, it's working. It takes a team to do this and make sure that this happens, and thankful that there are people that can, be able to work out this technical stuff. So thank you so much for being here. This is the Waiting for the One online chat, and I love talking about how to wait in God, especially during this season, and I hope that this really does encourage you uh, in your waiting period, in your single years. And, this is a month where it can get kind of hard. And what I mean by that is, seeing everyone else and seeing a lot of pressure around when it comes to, the promos and advertisements and all these things happening around when it's geared towards Valentine's Day. And so feeling lonely, feeling empty becomes a little bit more heightened. It becomes more like, man, okay, this is I see other people that have, a significant person in their life, and I don't have anyone. So it can become very, just that hole where, that emptiness or that loneliness can become really bigger. So thank you so much for being here. And again, I would love to encourage you today, as in this month, that you might be feeling empty, lonely, or you might just be feeling like frustrated, upset because, that time hasn't come yet, and you're saying, what can I do in this time? And definitely you can. Definitely you can trust in God in this time. And I wanted to share a little bit about my story with you. But yeah, so a little bit about myself, and just how I got into this whole thing. It was a period of time where I was single, and I just felt like, man, especially during Valentine's Day, it felt very, very lonely. It felt very, I don't know, just like feeling different and feeling like it's not fair, or just feeling frustrated, or wishing that things were different, and feeling, just not in control in that aspect, right? And I know, here and there, my mom would do sweet things like, give me a card or something. I love you, Iha, she would say. But it just wasn't the same. And during that season, I learned that, yes, there was purpose in the waiting. There was purpose in waiting in God, and that it wasn't in vain. It wasn't in vain, the time that I went through. And it really became a journey and adventure between me and God. And even though I didn't have a significant person in my life during those years, I learned to see God in that way, where I depended on Him a lot, where, I would do things like go to work or go to church, and I just really depended on Him. Okay, we're doing this together. We're going here together. And so that became my mindset, that in order to combat the loneliness or the emptiness that I felt, it was, okay, I'm going to focus. I'm going to focus on God. I'm going to focus on that He's here with me. And so it helped me to get to where I am now and to really depend on Him, just not in that waiting time, but also, depending on Him for what that next stage is. So I know I put on as the title "Waiting for the One," and I think we hear it a lot, right? And especially when I was younger, I would ask my mom, how do you know this person will be the one, or how do you know, the the husband that you're going to have or you're going to be with? Like, how did you know with dad? I just had, these questions. And I think that not a lot of people really know that, I guess, like, how do you know the one? Or there are different beliefs out there. But definitely what I've understood is that there is no one person. There isn't no significant one person in this whole entire world. There are many people in this world that you can choose from. And the reason why I say that is because it's important for you to understand that while you're waiting in God, that you are doing this journey of becoming more familiar with yourself, becoming more familiar with your relationship with God, so that when it comes time to, be with that other person, that you understand that you bring something to the table. Because when we set ourselves up to say, well, I'm waiting for this one person, and we put this person on this high pedestal, like this person's going to be perfect, this person's from God, and we have to take it back and understand that, we are choosing that person, that we are, and when we choose that person, that we have responsibility with that. We have responsibility to cultivate that relationship, to cultivate, that whether it's that friendship at first, whether it's that boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, and even in marriage, cultivating that relationship. So I know that there's a lot of even movies out there, and just this, I guess, like this fawn over this one person, right? But in reality, we get to choose that person that we are going to be with. So when we go to the altar, when we get married, we are saying, I choose this person, and when hard times come, when troubles come, just remembering that that we made that choice. So I wanted to share with you guys 3 things that will encourage you and encourage you in your journey. And some of these verses are like really, really familiar. But I really hope that it helps you today. That it helps you and really, puts you into that, I guess, right mindset, especially during this month, that you're like, man, it's really hard. Just like I said, when we place ourselves in that thinking of waiting for that person, that we're really saying, God, I'm trusting in you. I'm trusting in you that you're going to bring me to that right step. You're going to help me to meet that person. And even though there isn't, let's say, that one person, God has the ability to bring you the right people that can bless you, the right people that can, the right people that are going to be beneficial to your life, and that you're going to be beneficial to them. And so there are also people that could, be the wrong step. And, that's where trusting and depending on God comes in, and really saying, okay, God, if someone is not going to be a blessing, if someone's not going to be beneficial, if someone's really not going to help me fulfill my purpose in life, then really close that door. Don't, God, you're going to lead me the right way, and you're going to help me when to know that this person isn't, someone that I should really be with. And so I know that those are hard conversations to have, but that's part of trusting in God. That's part of depending on God and saying, okay, you know my life, you know my purpose, you designed me, you created me with gifts and talents, and really it's to serve God. And so what's the best way that I can do that? And so when we rush ahead of time, or we end up with someone that really isn't going to help us in our purpose, then it really is going to hinder what we're capable of and what we have to offer. And so it's really important to trust in God, and until that season arrives, until we're able to see that, to be with that person, or really maybe like in that dating scene and trying to choose, that we're really confident in God and in His Word and what He says. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you guys in waiting for that next season of your life, and I know a lot of people know this verse, and I wanted to share it with you and just really look at it under the lens of what God is saying for you in your years of being single. And that's John 3:16. And if you know it by heart, even better, because when you're going through those moments where you feel the pressure really strongly, this is where you can repeat that word and just begin to pray the word, begin to write the word, and that it really internalizes inside you. So for this is how God loved the world, He gave His one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in Him will not perish but have eternal life. And so the first thing that I want you to know is that you are loved by God. You are loved by God. You are loved by a great Father. You are loved by an eternal Father. You are loved. And when I think of God and just that kind of love that He has, sometimes we try to associate it or think of it as the love that we have experienced on earth. And when we have experienced love in a way that really isn't to the full extent or 100%, our perspective on that isn't 100% of what it's capable of, or what love really is, or what love genuinely is. And so when we read God's word and we read what the definition of love, and especially God's love, that God's love is unconditional, that you don't have to do anything to get God's love. Like, God's love is already there. He already loves you. God's love is everlasting, which means it is today, it is tomorrow, and forevermore. Like, His love is forever. His love is unending. And I know that's hard, especially for those of you that have ever gone through heartbreak, and you've been told I love you before. You've been told by someone, I want to be with you, I want to marry you, and it didn't end up happening. Or maybe you found out this person, just said it and it wasn't really real, or this person ended up saying it to someone else. And so it doesn't have that weight that it should. And so I wanted to remind you that when God says that He loves you, and He says that He loves you forever, that when He loves you unconditionally, that He is true to His word, that what He means is more than 100%. And if others have failed you in the past, whether you were in a relationship, or maybe even when you in your family, with your mother, your father, and you didn't have that love, or that genuine love, that authentic love, or they failed you in some kind of way where it caused you to mistrust. Um, you know, if that's what you're feeling as I'm saying this point, this is something that I definitely encourage you to pray about, that God begin to heal those places where you don't feel that love, that you begin to heal from, where that love, that definition of love, begin to break, so that you're able to trust in God fully. Because when, something happens in our life, when we go through an experience, we start to, guard our hearts in the wrong way, and it's just our way of defending ourselves, right? It's a way of defending what's inside, right? We start to harden our hearts. We start to, maybe, close our ears, or not allow certain things to come to our lives, because we've gone through those experiences. And so when God heals us, we're able to open ourselves back up, and we're able to receive that love. It's not that that love wasn't there, that God's love wasn't there. God's love was always there. But again, it's through experiences that we've gone through. It's, the traumas that we've gone through that stop us from really understanding and comprehending God's love. So number one, the most important thing to do during this waiting time is to understand that we are loved by God, and that through that we are receiving his healing. And that is a marvelous thing when you come to understand God's love. And, I think that every day of our life, we're going to learn something new about God. We're going to learn something new about the love of God, until we're fully in his presence, until we're seeing him face to face. And so we're learning so much about God. But, another definition of God's love is that he is faithful. And again, if you've gone through a traumatic experience where, people have said that they would be there for you, but didn't end up being there for you, God is faithful. And this is where we need that healing to understand, if someone says that they love you, they should always be there. They should stick it out. No matter what happens, they should be there, and that they should be true to their word. And so when you think about God's love, think about, think about God's faithfulness. Think about that God's love is unconditional. Think about that God's love is everlasting. And, sometimes we think that there are things that we have to do in order for someone to love us back. Like if I do these things, if I make sure to do this, if I speak a certain way, or if I do this, that this person is going to love me. And the beautiful thing about God is there's nothing that we have to do in order for him to love us. He just loves us, and he loves all of us. He loves, everything that we are. And I think that is just so awesome in what he teaches us. And the reason why it's so important to do this now, because when you get to that next phase of being married, because that's when it's official when you're with your husband, and it becomes that official. What you end up experiencing is God's love. If it's God's will for you to be with that person, what you're going to experience is God's love. What you're going to end up experiencing, just how God is faithful, how God loves you unconditionally, how God's love is everlasting. You get to experience that in that stage of marriage, which is so wonderful to be able to experience that. And the thing is with God, and I think this is a hard part, right, in of faith, and this is the trust, where we can't see God and we can't feel God, right? We can't sense His touch. We can't feel that hug in a spiritual sense. You can feel God, right? But we can't see God, and that's the part of the difficult part of trusting God, that man, I don't see this, or I'm praying but I can't see you. Like having a conversation with someone and seeing them, and we don't have that. But once we're reach that next stage of marriage, we do get to experience that touch, right? That hug. And so, in a sense, even then, it's a sense of healing. So, if that's something that you've lacked in your past, and we're talking about God's healing, and God takes you to that healing, and then when you get married, it's such a beautiful thing to see. This is how you meant it, God. This is how you meant to have a mother or a father embrace you with such genuine love. This is how you meant it within a marriage, to receive that affection, right? That, you know, there's nothing that you have to do in order for someone to love you in and out. And maybe right now, while you're single, there's a lot of doubts and fears. Like, could someone really love me for who I am? Would someone really accept me for who I am? There's so many women out there, and there's so many, I guess, a pressure to comparison of, I I don't look like this. I don't look like that. Can someone really love me if I look like this, or if I have this type of personality? And let me tell you that God is so wonderful in that's you get to experience that in marriage, when you get to that point. Wow, someone can really love me fully, in and out, right? And again, this is the season where you have to trust God, where you have the opportunity to trust God that, okay, you're healing everything in me, so that when I get to that point of dating and going out with friends, that I'm not going to show up feeling worthless, or feeling that I'm not good enough. We can approach those situations and knowing, if someone didn't uh, like me, or someone didn't want to go out with me, or someone didn't, really want to move forward in that step, that's okay, because there's someone else that's going to be right for that person. And I'm in this waiting period, believing that there's someone out there that God is going to bring to my life, and that is going to love me fully. And so you can go confidently into all these different situations, and that you won't fall for just anything or what anyone tells you. And you can stand firm and say, I know who I am. I'm loved by God. I know that, and in this love of God, that I have found my identity. um so number one, you are loved by God. And number two, and what I want to share with you, is you are seen by God. And we're going to read Genesis chapter 16, verse 13. And this is the story of Hagar, who is in a very difficult moment of her life. If you read about Hagar, she was just in a really tough situation, where there were decisions that were made for her. She wasn't, she was a servant to someone, so there were things that she had to follow. But it's interesting that in her pain, in her sorrow, God meets her. And so even in this this stage of her life where she finds herself alone. She finds herself questioning, how am I going to continue forward? Things are unfair. God meets her in that place. And so Genesis 16:13 says, thereafter Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord who had spoken to her. She said, you are the God who sees me. She also said, have I truly seen the one who sees me? And so I love that where it says, you are the God who sees me. See, during your wait, this is the time where you get to know God, but that you get to know God in a way where you understand that He sees you, that He knows you, that you are seen by God. And all those moments where you come up empty, all those moments that you feel lonely, all those moments where even you look at other people and you say, wow, when am I going to arrive, right? When am I going to be with that other person? When you get to that point of pain where it becomes, even unbearable, where, you feel, man, I can't do this anymore. This is hard. And it seems easier to get into a relationship, or maybe it's kind of at your fingertips where you can say, well, yeah, I can go out with this person and it's not really meaning anything. It's just to be with someone or to talk with someone or to feel that comfort, right? And it's becoming that pressure, but you know in your heart that God is asking you to wait. And you know in your heart that this isn't the right thing that I should do, and it feels painful. Just like Hagar in that moment where it felt unfair, it felt beyond her control, that you can understand that God sees you. And when God sees you, He is walking with you. And I love how when God speaks to Hagar, He's saying to her, I'm going to be with you. And, at that time she had a son. And so God was saying to Hagar, I'm going to be with you and your son. And this is a promise that I have for your son. And so when you trust in God, the beautiful thing about the adventure with God is that you're going to learn all these things that God has for you that you wouldn't be able to learn when you are involved, when you are preoccupied, being in a relationship. I think that's like the one of the pluses of being single is being able to hear God's voice in such a special way in that unique time, and that it's just you and God, and you're receiving from God. There's no one else involved. It's just you and God. And so I want to encourage you that in your pain, in your sorrow, the things that you're battling, God sees you. Keep moving forward. Don't, go back. Don't go back. Don't give into temptation. Don't give into giving up and saying, you know what? I want to do this how I want to do it, and or maybe how others are doing. I see how they're, doing great and fine. And trust in God. Trust in God that He sees you. And when He sees you, He brings healing. When He sees you, He brings peace. When He sees you, He has promises for your life. So number 1, you are loved by God. Number 2, you are seen by God. And number 3 is you are significant to God. And the verse I'm going to share there is Isaiah 44:2. Isaiah 44:2, and says, the Lord who made you and helps you says, do not be afraid, O Jacob, my servant, O dear Israel, my chosen one. And so you are significant to God. You are chosen by God. As I said, it's very hard to walk throughout life and when you don't know who you are or you don't know your purpose, it's everything just becomes really a lot harder, and there's consequences that come with that, right? When you don't know who you are and or what you stand for, your beliefs, your values. Any person, any guy can come up to you and say things, and you believe it, and it, the chances that that person what they're saying is true, or what they're saying is really going to be real, be genuine, it's a risk. But when you know your identity in God and you know your purpose, you align yourself and you get to know, okay, if this is the way I'm going, I'm not going to go this way. I'm not going to go that way, because I know where God is taking me. I know where God is leading me. And so part of your responsibility during this waiting time in God is, yes, to be healed in this time, to know who you are, and to understand that you are walking with God, that you are seen by God, that you're not alone during this waiting season, but also that you have a purpose, that you can do something now, you can serve now, that if you don't know your purpose, that this is the time to find out. God, what am I good at? God, what are the abilities that you have designed me with? God, what are the gifts that you have given me? God, what are the talents that you have given me? God, what are the things that make me passionate, that ignite me, that really put a fire in me, and I feel passionate about? I want to know what those things are. What are the things that make me sad? What are the things that really put a burden on my heart, that I want to change, that I want to do something? And so this is the time to figure that out. And this is the time to put it into practice, to apply it. If God has shown you, okay, this is your design, this is, what you're good at. This is what you're not good at. This is what you need to go for. This is what you need to improve in, or these are the things that you really need to pursue. Then align yourself with that. And in your local church, really plug yourself in with that purpose that God has given you. If God has given you gifts, talents, and abilities, it's so that you can help others. It's so that you can serve others. It's so that you're not staying idle. It's so that you're not just also being selfish or keeping it to yourself, but you're saying, if you've done a wonderful job in me, God, there's tons of things that you are going to do in other people that I can bless, that I can serve, and that only you can do. Why? Because you are designed uniquely. You are designed with a purpose. And so when you start to see your life in that way, you start to say, well, my life has meaning. You bring excitement into your days, into your weeks, into your months, instead of looking at your life as, man, I don't have someone. It's, God, you've given me something to do. I'm not just going to sit back and watch everyone moving. I'm not just going to sit back and feel, sorry for myself or bad for myself. I'm going to actually get out there and I'm going to do something. And chances are that if you're out there and you are doing something, you most likely will find someone that is also as passionate as you are, and also aligned in that purpose. And who knows, in that situation, wherever you go, or God's going to bring that divine appointment, you end up meeting that person and you click and you're like, oh wow, this is the person that I can see myself with. But it won't happen until you put yourself out there. If you stay hidden, if you stay, and I understand there's a time to be silent, there's a time to learn, there's a time to receive, right? There's a time to be healed, and that's okay. That takes time. And to, let other people understand, I don't want to be in a relationship right now because I'm concentrating on my relationship with God, and I understand that I need help. I need healing. There's some things in my life that I need to allow God to work in me, and there's a time for that, but it's not forever. And this is a journey. This is the part of the adventure. And when you get to the point of, okay, um, I'm going to do something with my time. I'm just not going to stand by or sit on the sidelines. And there's so much joy that comes from serving others and being generous. And so, meanwhile, you are helping others. You're also helping yourself. You're also bringing joy to your life. And I think that's how God meant it, that when we are helping others, we're also, God's blessing us. God is taking care of us. And, in that time that you are serving, that you are so focused, you are so driven, and that even this is the time that you're figuring out, okay, where am I best place? Where can I serve? Which spot is going to be the best place? And sometimes it takes some figuring out to do. If you've gone to college and taken courses, and there's a course you've taken, you're like, I learned, but I really didn't love this class. It's okay. And then maybe there's another class and you figured out, oh my gosh, I love this class. I want more. I want to learn more, or I really see myself applying myself in this area, and something in you moves, and that helps you understand, oh my gosh, this is somewhere where I'd like to be, or I really see myself in the future. And so a part of this journey of waiting in God is figuring that out, where best place to serve in, and to say, this is where I feel that I can be best used and be a blessing. I feel passionate about this. And if that's not the case in this time, like, that's okay. I'm learning that this spot is not for me. But I'm glad to serve someone else, and I'm going to find that place where I can serve others. And you are significant to God. You are significant to others. And so I think it's a pretty beautiful thing when you end up finding that that person, and you end up saying, wow, that person, that purpose aligns, and it's not something that you're going to be fighting with that person, because it becomes very, very tough once you're married and you haven't figured this out, you haven't taken the time to do this hard work during your single years. And when you end up in marriage, you find out this person doesn't support me in who God made me to be. Why? Because in your single years, you didn't take the time to understand your identity. You didn't take the time to understand that you were seen by God, and that while you're having this relationship with God, that you're receiving, that you're learning about Him, about yourself, about others, and that in your single years that you haven't taken the time to learn your purpose, to really know what moves you. And sometimes, sadly, some people don't understand that until they're divorced, until they're separated. Why? Because when you're in a relationship and you're in marriage, and it's it's a union, and you're called to each other, that means you belong to that other person. Your life is no longer your own. You belong to that other person, and that person belongs to you. And so when the other person doesn't want to go to church, or they don't want to know about God, or maybe they don't want to serve as you do, or aligning in that purpose, it becomes very hard. And so that pain, that sorrow is begins to take place. And so in this waiting period, there's something that you can do. You can take advantage of the years that you have, celebrate the singleness that you have, that this is the time to get to know yourself, to know God, to know how you can serve others, so that when you get to that next stage in your life, that it's something different, that it's something beautiful. It's another journey that you can say, God, you led me here. God, you helped me up to this point, and while I'm married, you're going to help me. And I'm going to continue this journey to serve you, continue this journey to know you. And so, and it's also a beautiful thing. And then once you enter into that, when you have a family, that you're able to have that example to your children, that you're able to have that example to your grandchildren, and and it all starts with you making that decision today, making that decision of how you're going to live your life, how you're going to spend February, how you're going to spend Valentine's Day, that you're not going to spend it, moping around, poor me, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this person, but that you start to say, but I have God. And if I have God, I have love, I am seen, I have purpose. And that really helps you. And what you end up coming to find out is that in this journey, that you're not alone. There are a lot of other people that are going through what you're going through, that you're not the only one that's battling with these issues of emptiness or loneliness, and that this is the time that you can say, God, bring friends around my life that I can be a blessing to. So instead of saying, well, I didn't get any gifts, or I didn't get any cards, I didn't get any flowers, I didn't get any balloons this Valentine's Day, why don't you go and get balloons? Why don't you go get a card? Why don't you go get flowers and gift it to a friend? Gift it to someone that you know that, hey, this person is single and they're probably going through the same thing that I'm going through, and I want to let that person know that they're not alone, that they're not in this journey alone. So I wanted to share this with you guys, and I hope that it really did encourage you, and come Valentine's Day, that you're not feel like, man, and even if on that day you had to shut off your phone and be like, you know what, it's going to be a me and God day, do it. Do it. Don't feel bad. And even when you start to feel sad or painful, remember this. Remember that you're loved by God. Remember that you're seen by God. Remember that you are significant to God. So I have part of this last part, as I shared that I would be announcing the giveaway. So I'm going to announce it right now. Thank you so much for joining until the end. And I'm going to look at right now. And thank you so much for registering for today. If this helped you, please let me know. I think that it just helps me know that that it's blessed someone. All right. The winner for today, and I'm just gonna say the email, and I'll email you that you've won. So ifasar _1013 at hotmail.com. So you have won the giveaway for today. Yay! And so I will be sending that to you, and I'll be emailing you so that you can let me know your address, and you'll be getting the notebook from the Soltera Pero Nunca Sola collection, which is so exciting. But thank you so much for everyone who registered, and thank you for entering into the giveaway. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of this Sunday, a great start to the week. Hopefully this helped you and you're like, I'm ready to take on this month, this week. So thank you so much. All right. Bye, guys.